Yeah, so the biggest problems I see really with the advertisers, the preparation that they have of getting started and making sure that they don't have issues with fraud.
We're gonna start with how to basically set yourself up for success on rewarded UA and how to choose the right partner. They're all like talks about fraud, and also there are like interesting topics around like long-term progression or ladder progression. Let's start, but taking a step back, every time I said like I had a really great discussion with you, everybody's oh my god, Zeno is like that's the guy like who you talk to. It's like what's your background then? Like why everybody's like oh my god, yes. I mean I know that's true, but so listeners to understand like where is it coming from?
Yeah, so my background is automotive business management.
There you go.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with marketing, but I fell into marketing about 10 years ago. So
Okay.
before this, I had an agency in the Netherlands together with my brother, and we set this up together. Well, he set it up, I joined later, and we basically helped a lot of the Dutch apps become very big in the Netherlands, and then we went into gaming. And eventually in
All right.
2018, I moved to Asia. That's where I set up tier ads.
Nice.
And yeah, we went basically from there to where we are today.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's interesting journey. So, but I'm the UA person, obviously. I want to start with rewarded UA. Like, how do I do the setup and like how do I start basically? Where should I go?
Yeah. So the biggest problems I see really with the advertisers that we start with is really the preparation that they have of getting started and making sure that they don't have issues with fraud. And there are some things that really need to be done from the advertiser's point of view to make sure that you don't have fraud spikes, right? So I'll just give an example, and maybe this sounds familiar to anybody that's listening, is that you're running a rewarded platform and out of nowhere, the ROI drops, right? And you have no idea where it's coming from. Or you see that there's a sudden spike in cost, right? And you don't know where that's coming from. The most important thing really in the rewarded space is to make sure that those things don't happen. And that really has to do with fraud coming from the setup part of any integration, right? So yeah, what do I mean with that, right? So it's basically when you're working with an attribution platform, any attribution platform that is out there, we have Adjust, you have Java, you have Singular, you have AppsFlyer, right? Each one of these platforms has events that you send towards it. That's how you track the revenue. That's how you track that, right? So when a purchase happens, that's an event that comes in, you track that. And how you set up those events has a huge impact on how good you're going to work with in reward. So what is actually, how does that actually work, those events, right? There's two.
What does it mean?
Yeah, there's two different ways those events get added to your attribution tool. Right. The first one is like a pixel. You all started in the marketing with Facebook pixels, right? It's like someone comes on the page, that pixel fires, right? And that pixel records like a page view or an add to cart or anything else. It's the same thing that you have in the SDK is what we have is similar, but then it's SDK events. So it's SDK based events. So that means they get fired from the front end. They get fired from someone goes to a specific page in the app, and then that event gets fired to the MMP. Now, what happens with that is that it's on the device. So that means that when it's on a device, it can be manipulated by the user. Now, if you're doing rewarded advertising and the user can manipulate their own rewards, well, you're asking for problems, right?
Yeah.
So you basically, if you don't prevent that from happening, right, you're going to have very advanced and very, you're going to have guys that are going to basically target your app. And there's very different ways that they can do this. One, in specific advertisers, they can just fake the events, sending it very easily. Other ones, they use cheat engines, like these game engines that they have on the device, and then they can change their own coins and suddenly be from level 1 to level 100. So they skip all these events.
Yeah.
And that is very easy for them to do that. I was able to do this myself. I'm using an emulator and just fake all the events myself and get through all the levels. And
there you go.
Okay, well, if it's so easy,
yeah, earning all the money, all the rewards.
Yeah, and they can earn sometimes thousands of dollars, right? So we've had situations on our side where on our own apps. So we've had situations on our side where on our own apps that in no time, in a few minutes, we lost $20,000. It can go very quickly. Of course, we don't charge our advertisers for that because that's
But
our
it's your
responsibility.
problem. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's our responsibility, right? To ask but I don't care. I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's just part of the game, right? But there are things that you can do to prevent that, because at the end of the line, when you're a UA manager, right, you don't want to think, hey, can I trust my numbers? You want to be able to say everything I see on my attribution platform is what I can trust. Everything I see on the attribution platform, the ROI, the cost, I should be able to 100% rely on that, right? And if you can't do that, how can you effectively do your job? That's really the biggest problem. And that's really where the biggest problem will be if you start in reward advertising, is that if you don't set it up correctly, there's no way that you're going to be able to make it happen and make it successful. Now that the problem is clear, how do we actually solve that, right? How do we actually prevent these kind of issues from happening?
Yeah.
And this will prevent about 90 to 95% of the issues that are out there.
Okay.
And that is that there's a second option of how to send events to a MMP. And that is using a S2S server-to-server event. So basically your backend takes those events and fires them to the MMP. So instead of a pixel that goes to a website, it then comes from your backend, your server. And there's no way that a user can fake that. They can't go and go into your database.
Can't exploit. They can't
change the numbers there to get through those numbers, right? So just by implementing that, right, that's where you can safeguard yourself very heavily, right? Now, then the last issue would be is that, okay, I don't have a backend. I don't have a server. How am I going to fix this now? But I really try rewarded advertising. This is where the choice of MMP and the security of the MMP will have an impact.
Okay.
You won't safeguard yourself 90, 95%, but you'll be able to safeguard yourself 60, 70% of the time.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is that we have different MMPs. Like the old MMP from Adjust was one of the most exposed MMPs. I sent fake events as well. I told my client, like, hey, I just want to try something out. So you're going to see a big purchase amount, right? So it's just me, I set up a test campaign, just so you know. But they actually recently updated this into their signature V5 solution. This is not really
but what's the difference?
And they basically rebuilt the entire SDK. From what I can see. The old SDK from the old Adjust team before AppLovin bought it, right? They basically rebuilt that entirely and built a very robust signature system. The signature system is like a password system. It's easily expanded, right? So just by implementing and upgrading to the signature view, that for Adjust clients protects themselves. And that was really where a majority of the issues were coming from, was Adjust and their old SDK. But the new SDK is very robust and very protective of that. It's very difficult to fake this, and I would definitely highly 100% recommend it. Make sure you have signature V5 on Adjust. Even if you don't have a backend system, you're still very protected with that.
Right? Okay, but what if I don't use Adjust and I use Singular or AppsFlyer?
Yeah, so Singular and AppsFlyer, luckily they also have a good signature system in place. So they also have a good system in place to prevent some of these issues. It does not prevent potentially the issue with game engines, right? That is something that will still have an issue, because the game engine is I can change my points and that will still send to your backend system. So there's still some things that need to be done on that side, but it will prevent majority of the cases that you have. So either AppsFlyer, you make sure you integrate AppsFlyer, you integrate Singular. Or if you have Adjust, make sure you integrate and implement V5 of their solution. If you don't have signature V5 on the Adjust SDK, you are exposed to a degree. They have some signature things on the older ones, but it was quite open for a bit.
Okay, but I mean, as a UA manager, and I want to start the rewarded advertising. So the server to server tracking, is it hard to implement, or should I go to my devs and say, look, this is what we need before we start? Or it's just like, I just have the MMP SDK and it's good enough?
Yeah, so like I said, right, if you can't trust 100% on the numbers, right?
Yeah.
It's always going to be difficult to do your job correctly, right? So you don't want to have sudden spikes happening You don't want to have someone drop in ROI and not be able to understand what's going on, right? And it makes it very difficult to optimize your funnel. That makes it very difficult to optimize like what bid you need to give.
to do anything, basically.
You have no idea what's going on, right? So that's really where most of the confusion comes in the beginning phase. Is like, oh, it looks really good. They're like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Then they find you because there are always these groups of guys. They work together. They're not very smart because they work as groups. They don't do one individual one. They just attack it in one go. They get greedy and they all go at the same offer at the same time. And that's where you see like, oh, okay, that app is very exposed at this moment. And that's when the education part comes into play. It's like,
how does that work? And how do you know about these groups?
Yeah, these groups are the funny thing. Yeah, it's I'm actually part of these groups. They don't know.
There you go.
They stole from a Dutchman, and I think that's the worst thing you got to do is steal from a Dutch person. We have a saying in America, going Dutch, right? So like going Dutch is splitting exactly. So if you take our money, we're going to go after you. So
okay,
I basically, we built our bounty program, basically. So every time someone would come with an exploit, we would pay them money.
Okay.
And eventually I paid someone just to get inside the group. So they introduced me as someone that was very interested in doing these hacks.
Okay.
And then I got joined in these groups, and I learned a little bit of like how they were doing their things there.
Nice, yeah.
So that allowed me to be better to explain to our clients, like, okay, how do we actually prevent it?
Yeah. Okay.
That's very cool. Sometimes you see them very annoyed that, hey, nowhere my offer is no more working, and I get some very small pleasure out of that.
Yeah. Keep your enemies close. Keep your enemies close. At least you know like how it works, because like why would I kind of understand like why would anyone do that, because if you said like you can earn quite a substantial amount of money in a very short period of time, then that's a pretty good motivation.
So you have the people that try to game the system, and you have the people that need to protect the system. It's always like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny sometimes. Sometimes you chat with them on the chat bot within our own solutions, right? And then you talk with them and say like, yeah, I just needed some money because I wanted to buy something, and then you're like, okay, I get it as well. I understand.
Okay.
It's a funny situation, but yeah, it's just that part really is like the core of it, right? So if you don't start with that, right, we can optimize whatever we want, right?
Yeah,
like
of course,
update the bid, do different funnels, do everything. But if they can bypass that, you can't 100% rely on your own numbers that you're seeing in the front end.
Yeah, because then you can't scale, you can't work, you can't like, oh, well, these numbers look shit. Then okay, what you do is just pause. You pause and then just move on. Thank you very much.
Exactly. And then rewarded traffic doesn't work for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it doesn't work because okay, now understandable. But then like that's the thing, like nobody was able to say like, look, you need to have the server to server or just kind of some kind of protection before you even start. So that's the first time I'm actually hearing that.
This is not a lot of people know about this, right? It's really just something that is very important to get started with that part, right? You do that correctly, you protect yourself, you set yourself up. You make sure nobody can steal from you, right? And that's really where the results will come through, right?
Okay.
Normal, if you run a Google Ads or Facebook, you don't have to worry about these things, right? It's
exactly,
who is going to fake events, right?
Yeah, what are they going to gain from that? Yeah.
There's no gaming from it. So, it's a very interesting way to see that how that evolved, because it really became a very big problem. The last year, 2 years ago was really, really, really huge, right? And a lot slowly but surely we see more and more advertisers closing them off, right? But you still see some large players that still don't have that protection there.
Yeah, but then I remember you mentioned like anytime this group sees the offer and they can exploit, and they're just gonna hunt you down on every kind of network out there. How does it
so usually like your app is marked, right? Once your app is marked, like, okay, hey, I have this bubble shooter game that I played, I was able to do the reward. You're going to be thrown into this group.
Hunger Games begin.
Yeah, the Hunger Games begins. They're going to chase you around. They're going to try to find like, oh, okay, hey, I saw this on tier ads, now let's exploit it here. And then it gets paused because, hey, the quality is not good. Then they go find it on different platforms, and then they just go around until they find all of the places, and then it gets paused everywhere and then disappears. And then that's where the moment comes in that the UA manager will say, rewarded advertising is not working for me.
Yeah.
But it's really the core is that they will hunt you down. There's an incentive for them to do it. You got to be
Yeah, it's a
careful.
very
Yeah.
a very strong one. Very strong.